Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best live YouTube stream to talk about markets. Yes, we are a little late. I see the I see this comment. I love this comment. I felt like I had to steal that joke, but I mean, why not just give some credit to the comments as well for sticking around. Welcome, guys. We're going to have a great show for you today on this lovely Friday. We hope everybody has had a great week. I'm Snorlax. You also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Prometheus and, of course, Big Louie. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the markets, right? Bitcoin and ETH are a little bit flat. They did pump in Asia last night, but I think the real story today is obviously Solana. Equities green once again. It seems like we say this basically every day, but also sorry if you guys hear some meowing in the background. I am cat sitting for my mom like a good son, and she has a very vocal cat, so you probably will hear her on today's show. Regardless, though, before we can get too deep into talking about the markets, obviously talking about Solana pumping, where we think things like Bitcoin, ETH, equities, and some of your favorite altcoins, right, like Doge, is also very green and continuing its recent uptrend. Where do memes fit in within that broader equation as well? We'll talk about it. But first, I'm going to ask if you guys can smash that like button for us. Let's run it up. It's a Friday. I know the Friday crowd is a little bit light. You guys get a bit of a bad reputation for that. No, I'm just kidding. We're happy you guys are here. But if you could hit the like button for us, we're always very appreciative when you do that. And of course, you help us keep the lights on here at for our YouTube channel here at BB. But all right, enough of the yap. Let's talk about the markets, right? Because we're now, I mean, we're less than 3 weeks away from Q4. And, I would say most of September has been fairly non-volatile, right? I mean, we had I think a dump kind of towards the end of last month. We're seeing a rebound here in the first half of September. Are we about to see price potentially chop sideways from here into Q4, which I think would probably be the most bullish scenario? Are we seeing a bearish retest playing out right now here on Bitcoin and maybe ETH while you're seeing Solana strength? I mean, because we do got to talk about that a little bit, I think, on today's show. The fact that Sol is pumping, it's kind of the new ETH, as I've been saying. So, is that a sign that maybe this is a bearish retest for Bitcoin? We'll debate that as well. ETH is kind of just still consolidating and not giving us a ton of signal, but we've continued to say that meme coin charts are perking up. Doge is looking like it's in line for an ETF here pretty soon. I think Pepe still looks pretty decent here as well, along with some other meme coins. And obviously you're seeing this huge risk on behavior for small caps through TradFi. So, I think the outlook for meme coins heading into Q4, is definitely a positive one, right? It's just kind of a matter of, and I have a video coming out later today that's going to talk about this. It's called Q4 is Coming. You're going to see me dressed up like Ned Stark. Shout out to our dev Ed for putting that together. But as Q4 is approaching, I think it's just a matter of, okay, we can map out how we want to position into Q4, but September seasonality could still be a thing. We have 3 weeks before Q4 is going to get here. So it's a matter of, all right, where are we going to be trading by the time October rolls around? But let's talk about it, guys. I'd love to know, what we're thinking about this week in markets. Lots of data this week. Was it all noise? Was it relevant? Is it going to play a role in next week's FOMC? And obviously, do we think that next week's meeting with Jerome Powell, who loves to be a turd in the punch bowl with the exception of Jackson Hole, apparently, is that going to have any lasting impact on markets? What are we thinking, guys?
I don't think. I just bid.
Fair point. I don't know how to follow that up. Yeah, I think next week's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting. There's obviously been a lot of talk, a lot of noise. The timeline has been blasting. FOMC, Powell, 50 basis point cut, 25 basis point cut. What is it going to be? How are we going to position around it? I think more so like the real question is, can we continue to hold up with the deteriorating labor market? That to me is more so the bigger question. FOMCs are typically kind of talk about it 1 week later, forget about it. That's typically how it goes. But if we look back, right, especially just kind of getting back to the economic data, historically speaking, the signs are there, but I think the bigger question is like the timing, right? And a lot of people are very, very early to call the top or to call that, okay, we're going to roll over right now. Things are uglier than they might seem. We zoom out on the charts, and charts typically people misunderstand or misrepresent really what and how that's going to evolve within price itself, and it typically takes a lot longer than most may expect. So Powell, I think, is pretty much, it's priced in. I think 95% at this point we're going to get a 25 basis point cut. Is it not enough? I think it hasn't been enough for quite some time. I think there's been some political shenanigans, which we won't get into, and why he hasn't been cutting. But ultimately speaking, you look at the Russell, you look at kind of the broader risk on environment, you look at mid cap and small caps and equities, right? Outperforming mega cap. You look at altcoins, total 2, total 3 ES as well, outperforming Bitcoin, outperforming the mega cap. So you get these brief windows where you're probably going to see, in my opinion, some real risk on flows when you start to get these rate cuts that have probably already tried to front run them. But I said a few times, the velocity of the rate cuts that's going to come is going to come probably in a big, big, big way. People are expecting kind of like a linear distribution of cuts moving forward. I don't think that's going to be the case. We'll see what shapes up, but ultimately speaking, here into the end of the year, I think is going to be probably a really, really, really strong Goldilocks period for the market. And that's my thoughts.
FOMC is next week, right?
Yeah.
Is it Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Usually is Wednesday. They got to ruin the second half of your week.
Yeah. Your mic's super loud, Tommy. I don't know why.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I mean, I'm at my mom's, so maybe that's playing a role, but
that could be. Yeah, I mean, Prometheus mentioned the Russell. Just looking absolutely beautiful, and it's pretty crazy how spot on, and the comparisons we're seeing to the COVID fractal to today, approaching all-time highs, just a V-shaped recovery, and heading into next week, we do get a rate cut. What that is, if I had to guess, I'd say probably 25. I feel like there's never really been a situation where the Fed has kind of surprised or shocked the market. I feel like they're pretty good at not doing that, but who knows, right? I don't have a crystal ball. I agree with Tommy. I guess if we do get 50, maybe that is like a knee-jerk scare reaction. Maybe it gives the market a flush real quick, and then it's up only from there. But we've never really seen them do that, so I'm not sure. We'll just have to wait and see. If trying to remember back when we came out of like the 2022 bear market for equities and they started cutting, did they start with a 50 and then do 25 bips after that? Do you guys remember?
Which time frame were you wondering about?
Like when the Fed started cutting rates back in 2022, 2023, or at least for a little bit.
They did a 25 off the bat.
They did a 25. So they started with a 25. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, anything can happen. I don't see them shocking the market. That's not really what they're trying to do. But at the end of the day, who knows, right? Who knows? What I will say is you have the Russell approaching all-time highs, inching towards that level, coming into rate cuts. I'm expecting a very similar move that we saw back here. And this kind of similarities continue to play out. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect, right? We could always see, some pullbacks along the way. This has been a pretty straight up V recovery, right? Seeing a pullback at, off of, or near the old all-time high resistance makes sense. But I think ultimately over the next couple months, we will see the Russell and price discovery. And when you see the Russell and price discovery, you also see massive rallies out of the crypto markets. So that's great, right? That's great. Also noticing, like, it's interesting. Look at even the RSIs, right? Look similar, kind of this like curling kind of thing we're doing here, and then bang, right? Kind of like what it did here. Very interesting. So many similarities to the COVID kind of drop and V-shaped recovery. It's really hard for me to not see this continue to play out, especially coming into, you know, a rate cutting environment, right? Which is super bullish for low cap stocks. Why? Because money now becomes cheaper for these companies to borrow, right? A lot of these companies technically don't make a profit, and they need to borrow money to kind of fund their businesses to get to that profitability. So if money borrowing becomes cheaper with interest rates coming down, that puts a different light and kind of prospectus, as you know, on low cap stocks as viable investments into that environment. So kind of have the perfect storm here, right? Kind of have the perfect storm here. Really liking that.
If I were to like guess on Powell's rhetoric, I would say he's going to come out and be very, very dovish based off the last meeting. You know, inflation's coming down. They're starting to get, you know, weakening in the job market, which is exactly what they wanted to see. And so he has set the stage for the implications of that, and we'll see if he follows through. You know, that's kind of how I believe. I do not think he's going to come out and be hawkish at all. I think if anything, you know, he might be pretty neutral, but more so dovish than anything is my stance on that.
Damn, all
I
right,
don't know what to expect about. You know what, Rilla? You know what? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, sir.
I want to see you come up here and talk to people every day. You know, I just came off a 30-minute Discord call. Now I'm coming up here to talk to you guys. Yeah, so maybe I have to process my thoughts and use some filler words like, you know, I do know I say it a lot. It's something I'm trying to work on. All right, leave me alone.
Meat stick.
Sorry, go ahead, Tommy.
I mean, I was just going to say, I still think Powell has to cut, personally, 50 basis points. I know it's consensus that 25 is going to be what we get. I have no idea what tone Powell is going to strike, and I think trying to predict that is becoming increasingly difficult, as the last few months have kind of shown us, right? Nobody expected him to be bullish at Jackson Hole. He was dovish. Nobody expected him to really be bearish the two meetings before that, and he was very hawkish. So I have no idea what Powell's going to say next week. I just think, given the labor market weakness, they should be cutting 50 basis points. I know the market would probably not like that, but I just think they should be prioritizing the labor market over their inflation mandate at this point. I think it was Prometheus who pointed it out. Like, we're clearly seeing inflation coming down. We're not going to get the target rate that we wanted, which was about 2%. But, you know, quite frankly, the fact that the labor market is breaking in the manner that it is, to me, highlights that should be a much larger priority than inflation potentially coming back. But we also know at the same time that Powell has consistently not wanted to be the Fed chair who is responsible for inflation flaring back up. And so I guess there is kind of like this push-pull dynamic in that regard, where we'll see what he has to say next week. But if you're asking me what I think he should do, he should be cutting 50 basis points. I don't know if that's what he's going to do, but I think that he should be cutting 50 basis points.
It would bring us back in line with kind of our trajectory pre-tariffs. You know, if you look back before Trump got inaugurated, I mean, we were planned to cut another 25 basis points before this, right? And then we had tariff news, and they kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, and we're in wait and see mode. And yeah, 50 basis points, I mean, it would shock the shit out of the market at this point. But at the same time, it would put us back in line. And I agree, it would prioritize the job market, which is what we want. But ultimately speaking, you know, even if they're a little late here, I just think like Q4 is primed, like is primed for higher.
I think so too. I think the Q4 ROI will likely be very high. I continue to ask myself where we're going to open Q4, right? Because we do still have 3 weeks of September seasonality. Are we completely writing off September seasonality? I guess I can pose that question. Here's what I could see happening though, guys, is that they cut 50 basis points and maybe the market panics. But at the same time, I do think if anything does happen in the market, the response will be to print money. So inflation will likely, I feel like inflation is inevitable. So it's at a certain point, you kind of have to prioritize the labor market, right? Like if things are crashing, it's much harder to get that back than to, well, I guess I take that back. It might be harder to rein in inflation, but they're kind of in a box. They don't really have a great option, in my opinion. But I also don't think they have the leverage to be able to wait with the rate cuts and just have like this very methodical rate cutting cycle. I guess we'll see. If they do, soft landing bros win. We probably melt up in Q4 if that's the case.
Tommy, there is no landing.
I mean, look at
there is no landing because there is no plane. I'm just kidding. That was a really stupid joke. Please ignore that.
It's all a lie. It's all an illusion. I mean, look at last September, though. What we saw was a pretty much decent rally off of a kind of a double bottom low here. And we pretty much rallied, for majority of September, literally up until September 30th, the last day of the month. So this was a pretty bullish September. And literally off the monthly open, bang, you get that drop. And all this drop was a higher time frame, higher low. And then the Q4 bullish seasonality. So maybe we're seeing something like that, because right now, at least over the last couple, the last week or so, we've been kind of in a slow grind to the upside, right? So maybe we see something similar. Maybe we just continue to grind higher throughout the rest of the month. Q4 opens up. Maybe we get a pullback of some sort coming into this overhead supply here, create a higher time frame, higher low. Bears get horned up again, and then we start, this next leg for Bitcoin. That's not something that I'm going to count out. I think that's probably a high possibility.
I would really like to see Bitcoin break through this level of resistance. We are kind of trading back into, like, we can kind of zoom in, I think, a little bit on the Bitcoin chart, because this level in particularly does have some contextual significance and volume significance, right? This is where we saw the Bitcoin whale sell off billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin to ape directly into Ethereum. So I do think, for that matter, or like given that, like, this level on Bitcoin has to be cleared if you are bullish, right? Should be. If somebody's in the same way that, like, when we were talking about Novogratz dumping billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, reclaiming that level, what it meant for the market. I think if you can prove that you're just actively absorbing billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and USD, or what am I saying? Billions of dollars USD, redundant. But, if you can prove that you're absorbing billions of dollars of Bitcoin and consistently accepting above the pricing that occurred, to me, that is a very clear sign that the market is strong and wants to continue to go higher. So this is, for me, a very significant level of supply that I think you need to see Bitcoin break through. And I think if we reject here, we're likely headed back towards the monthly lows.
What I like is that we already kind of got a pretty bearish underside rejection on this pump. I don't even remember when was this? I don't even remember this move. When did this happen? Why do I not remember this happening? It's weird. But I like the fact that we have seen this was a clear bearish underside retest of this lost level, right? Acting as supply. And you saw the follow through off that bearish rejection. We've since regathered, reaccumulated down on top of previous all-time high support, previous consolidation before expansion support, tons and tons of market structure here. You should have been expecting a bounce from these levels. So I like that we did see a bearish rejection already, underside rejection. And, we took the time to reaccumulate, pretty much nice little inverse head and shoulders, reversal pattern, breaking out and coming back. So yeah, definitely could see, a rejection. I keep saying, now it's in my head and now I'm thinking about it. God damn it, Gorilla. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some local rejection. I really wouldn't be surprised, but I think ultimately that we're coming back after bearish underside, rejecting here. There's a great possibility that we will reclaim and head back to the upside.
The demand on the ETF front's been very real over the past few days as well. I don't know if you guys saw that. The ETF inflows have been significant. I think it's one of our largest inflow days in the past 3 months. So, to see still institutions interested at these levels, or at least, them taking customer funds that are interested at these levels and buying Bitcoin is very important. Could I see us come back down to maybe 109 ish, we'll call it? Sure. Right. You look at stablecoin dominance, we're at a very, very, very strong key inflection point on that chart as well. So I would not be in the camp that I want to be longing into the supply region right now. You're at supply at Solana or on Solana, on Bitcoin. You're at supply on Doge. You're at supply on XRP. You're at demand on stablecoin dominance. And then Louis, if you add USDC dominance to that chart real quick as well.
Okay.
And the reason why I do that, just for the audience's sake, is we obviously understand USDT had much more, was the stable coin for years and years and years. But with Coinbase's influence here most recently, USDC is taking more of a, important role in the stablecoin ecosystem and infrastructure that is. But yeah, those look very similar. And if you zoom in too, Louis, at this local structure, and you see we created some very, very interesting. Wants to do that to you.
Wow. They're calling me brokey here.
Just zoom in. It's all good. Zoom in. More granular, low time frame on those daily candles on that kind of deviation you have marked out there. And you can see on all those highs, the inability to really, for buyers, or in this case, it's actually sellers, continue to step into the market. And I think within those 7 out of those 10 daily candles, we are wicking into that supply region. And to me, that screamed, okay, now is essentially the time where, this should be rolling over. We should be seeing a bounce across the board here locally, a little bit more granular. We're kind of at a little bit of a demand region. You're seeing us set a little bit of a doji. Not the biggest of points of inflections across the board, obviously, but just looking at the comparison from what we saw between the June and July structure to now, where Louis has marked out, it's very, very, very similar. And to me, it's screaming that, okay, this is, the bottom should be in. I'm not saying there won't be shenanigans here. I'm not saying there won't be shenanigans here moving forward for, the FOMC, potentially into, like you had marked out from last year, where October open was a little bit nasty, maybe one more shakeout. We are still in a little bit of an illiquid environment, so that you can't ever discount that. But I just keep looking at altcoin structures, and I'm like, how could you be bearish here? Like, how? They look so good. The altcoin indices look fantastic. Like Doge is probably getting an ETF soon. Like somebody knows something. This thing is looking strong. The list goes on and on and on. So
That's it. They're having fun today with me. Damn. All right.
It's a Friday. They got to take out their weekly microaggressions.
Right. Yeah. It's a great self-reflection day for me.
Oh my gosh.
I will say, I mean, if we get to Q4 with everything trading up here, I think we're going to see like an ETF bonanza of a bunch of altcoins, and that would kind of be like, all right, probably time to take some profit moment for me.
Yeah.
Right. If we just start getting some of the most obscure ETFs, because I remember having this conversation a few weeks ago, and they specifically kind of denied the Sol ETFs or like delayed them because it's almost like we've had this very clean order of operations, musical chairs, whatever you want to call it, right? We had Bitcoin, and it took a really long time for the ETH ETF approval to come. We got like a sniff of that last May when ETH kind of got that God candle, but then retraced it. But now I feel like we've seen kind of ETH's time in the sun a lot more here over the last few months. Over the summer, ETH rallied over 150% in a very, very short period of time. Are we now going to see maybe that musical chairs game speed up and list more ETFs? Are they going to then, or are they going to put, what do you guys think about this, by the way? Are we going to see that game of musical chairs with ETFs speed up, or are we going to see them continue kind of like this very orderly, okay, Bitcoin got its time in the sun, ETH got its time in the sun. Maybe ETH's time in the sun is not done, and they're going to continue to wait on these things like Solana and Doge. Are we going to see Sol or Doge kind of be the next ETF, and then it gets its time in the sun? Or like I said, are you going to just kind of see like shotgunning ETF approvals here?
I think they're going to go one by one with the majors, like Sol, XRP, stuff like that, Doge, and then start shotgunning after that if they're going to keep going down that path. Or we're going to see like grouped, like these ETFs for like a basket
fully
of these altcoins, one or the other.
Yeah, you're fully going to see baskets, especially for once you get outside of like XRP, Doge, and Sol, it'll probably be baskets. Do I think they're going to come in a shotgun order, or it's going to go more linearly? I do think that there's probably going to be some form of, towards the end, some form of like shotgun effect. I do think you're probably going to get, they'll probably delay or wait on. I still think you get Doge by this October. I think that's the deadline. You get Doge, probably get like an XRP. Sol's a little bit more inconspicuous for me, and the reason why I say that is the like lack of regulatory clarity when it comes to Sol still. Is it a security? Is it not a security? Where like XRP beat the case, it's very much so already in the favor of regulators or like the regulatory body. So you probably see those come down the pipeline, but like the breadbasket of the rest of them will most likely be in one, like Louis said, basket, and then that is probably like the top. You probably see that pop off for like a few weeks after that. On chain goes ballistic, and it is time to get out of the market, right? So that's kind of what I think.
I think the altcoin market cap chart is a great representation and visualization of what's to come here. Whether we get the ETF soon or not, or whether we get a monster rally and start to see those ETF drops after that monster rally, which then it probably most definitely likely is a sell signal. But looking at the altcoin market cap chart here, guys, something we looked at yesterday, we have the altcoin market creeping up, compressing right under the 2021 cycle all-time high. So this, altcoins have not expanded yet this cycle. We're still at valuations we've seen 4 years ago. We've already rejected at the old all-time high once back in January, successfully consolidated, broke out of that consolidation, multiple weeks holding this breakout and solidifying it. And now we're just kind of curling up and compressing right under this all-time high. You get your quote unquote all season. What that looks like, we're not going to know until it comes over the next month or two, which I think it is like relatively on the horizon here. But this is the visualization. This is what everyone is here for, this move, right? And it hasn't happened yet. Right now, just a slow grind from the bear market lows with multiple. Whoa.
I know. I recognize that trading view alert.
Sheesh. Multiple time-based capitulations and reaccumulations on the chart. And this is what has been pretty much taking everyone to the cleaners and testing everyone's patience. Are these multi-month consolidations and reaccumulations? But we should see, in theory, once we start breaking this all-time high, we should see this slow grind really start to kind of steepen its curve, pick up speed, entering price discovery. And this is kind of your euphoric altcoin crypto mania, right? And we haven't seen it yet. Sure, it's been delayed, but being delayed does not mean it's canceled, right? It was simply delayed. We are pressing up into this level. This looks like a pressure cooker ready to pop. And when it does, I think we're going to see, a massive expansion for the altcoin market. And this is where you make a majority of your gains if you're an altcoin holder or an investor. So we're on the precipice, guys. So I'm bullish.
I love this comment.
You want a fast grind?
I want a fast grind. No more slow grind.
No, that wasn't my notification, guys.
No, that's Prometheus's notification. I recognize it.
I thought that was ESPN league
from the afternoon call.
Everybody's eardrums. Yeah. I need it to be loud. Like if I'm in the other room, I need to know.
I want a Do Kwon grind. Well, if you remember the thing about the Luna chart, Fly, is that the Luna chart like slow grinded before blowing off for literally like 4 to 6 months. It's kind of one of the funnier charts that I can remember in that regard. It traded like a complete Ponzi. It shouldn't be a surprise that it unwound the way that it did. Not to say that it was easy to short, because I won't change, or I won't be Captain Hindsight here and say like, yeah, it was so obvious that Luna was going to blow up at the exact price that it did. It wasn't hard to predict that it was going to happen eventually, but I'll tell you a story, and it's a great one, kind of talking about the way these things tend to work. Like Luna in 2021, some of you might remember, actually had a death spiral before it went to zero in May. And it went all the way from, I think it was like $24 all the way to $3 or $4. And I remember Twitter was saying like, yeah, Luna might go to zero. But because the protocol was a lot smaller, the powers at B were able to kind of stop that from happening. And because of that, because I knew that risk was present with Luna, I was not buying it at the lows when it was at $3 to $4. And it ran 40x or like 50x from those lows and then went to zero. So, I mean, I didn't short Luna. I faded the whole pump though. And I think there is something that should be said about that. You can be right, but don't bet against a Ponzi. It can always last longer than you think. Yeah, we can look at Sol.
We should look at chat from Wildcat fam.
Shout out.
Let's go.
Thank you, Wildcat fam. You're now BB fam. God, I've got some horrible jokes today. I'm so sorry.
Tommy is the embodiment of dad jokes.
God. Yeah, I guess so. Whatever happened with Curve systemic risk? Well, I mean, Curve went to Curve went to what, like 20 cents, right? Yeah, it wicked to 18 cents. He got liquidated. I thought it would maybe have a bigger impact on DeFi leverage just because it's all kind of entangled together. But I think realistically, it probably had already unwound that ETH DeFi leverage in like 2022 when ETH went from like, what was it, 3,500 to 800 in the span of like 4 to 6 weeks. But yeah, the curve chart blew up. I think, you know, the new DeFi protocols would be a bigger risk to the market than Curve was in like 2023, 2024. Things like Athena, Pendle, my beloved Pendle. But I'm not really looking at that at the moment. Maybe I should be, given that I'm not looking at it at the moment. That's always how markets work, man. It's like, yeah, I had this thesis. I took my eye off of it. And it's like, oh, it was actually a pretty good thesis. I was just early. Who knows? Do we have Louis?
Louis? That's all right. I can snag the chart. Uno momento.
Let's look at Sol.
Yeah, let's look at Sol. That's what I was going to do.
Oh, that means Sol Bitcoin is ripping. Oh, man. I don't believe it. Dichotomy of Tommy love for DeFi. It's funny. I have this thesis that DeFi will go to multi-trillions as an asset class, and then simultaneously that it's all like entangled risk that could blow up. It is definitely a dichotomy in the way that I view it. It's a very fragile ecosystem, which is why I kind of want to talk about hype after we talk about Sol, because I know they're going through this whole stablecoin debate.
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be, they're voting on it right now, aren't they?
Yes. I don't know who's going to win. I have done a little bit of research, though, as far as which one I think would be best.
Yeah. All right, let's jump on Sol here real quick. I mean, obviously, we had a nice break of the POI at like 210. I was talking to Tommy about this before the call, or before we started the live stream. I let go of this long a little bit too early, unfortunately. But I've been marking out in the Discord that, okay, you break this POI, where's your next stop? It's going to be the 240, the supply region, the shoulder, before we had the big sell-off and cascade down post, Melania Trump shenanigans. So what do I expect here? I look, RSI is getting a little bit overheated. Everybody's super kind of focused and keen on the Sol DATs right now. Mike Novograd's bull tweeting it, and he's, pumping price in the face of a divergence between Solana and Bitcoin right now. I mean, granted, though, Bitcoin's been a large lagger for, past 2 months, maybe even longer than that. So I look at Solana here. Is this something that I would be careful here in regards to adding? I would not add here. We're at high time frame supply. You just had the breakout of the POI. Could it go a little bit higher? Yeah, you could maybe be targeting 260. I would look for some form of consolidation, kind of accumulation effects. I talk about it a lot in the Discord, but you get, accumulations into expansion. What happens after expansion? If we just look back at Solana back here, for instance, you get, expansion higher. And then there's a distribution into reaccumulation effect to then see further price action. I'm not saying it's going to take as long as what we saw previously this cycle, but ultimately speaking, it's like, okay, we are seeing expansion right now in the face of a lagging, and with Bitcoin lagging, Ethereum's still kind of doing some shenanigans on the low time frame. Are we going to see some redistribution effects in this supply zone? Most likely. I wouldn't be looking to necessarily add any positions here on Solana from a leverage or spot standpoint. I mean, spot, you could maybe consider it, but what would be probably the better bet is going and finding assets on Solana, like this one, Bonk, in my opinion, is something that's going to run very, very hard, especially with the wealth effect that we're going to see generated with Solana, seeing price appreciation. It had a really nice sweep of this liquidity down here, no longer a naked low. RSI curling up off of, off these lows. I've been talking about it quite a bit, but you've had these like accumulations into, 1, 2, and now looking at our 3 drives, typically the third drive is your largest of those drives. So, Bonk here would probably be some decent exposure to have for the Solana ecosystem. There's other names, kind of pick your poison, whichever one you think is best. But I don't, from an on-chain perspective, believe that Solana is going to be what it once was this cycle in regards to just throwing shit at a wall with stuff listed on pump, and you can, print, 1 to 10 SOL pretty easily. I think it's going to be something more along the lines where you're going to have to be pretty focused on narratives, more specifically RWAs here moving forward alongside those ETF announcements, institutional adoptions, and integration, yada, yada, yada. So Solana looks good here. You have this liquidity still down here at 185. I'm not saying that it can't come down here, but is it coming down here right now with the passive flows we're seeing from the digital asset treasury companies as of right now and the attention wave? It's probably going to take some time to really, see this level or get something really nasty to ensue in the markets. What's more likely to have happened here, if you do see a broader pullback, let's say because of FOMC hypothetically, would probably look for some form of retest here at, this POI down to 210. That would freak everybody out. You'd flush out so many lay longs in the market and squeeze them out of their positions, and then, oh so perfect, then run it back in their face, right? Headed into Q4. So kind of what I'm seeing on Solana. I hope that makes sense. Where am I from? Put your finger on the middle of the United States and you're pretty close. So
what do you think, Prometheus, about where Bonk Fund fits into all this? Because you kind of made me think about that when you brought it up. I haven't thought about Bonk in a few weeks now. And I think that is kind of reflective of the fact that you have Pump Fund token performing so well off the local lows. I have to say the local lows because from the inception of it, it is technically still just getting back to where it was trading. But obviously Bonk attempted to steal some market share from Pump Fund.
Yeah,
it's sold off. But the structure looks fine to me.
Yeah, it looks really good actually. I think it fits into the thesis and the narrative really well. I mean, Pump's obviously doing some numbers off the lows. Wabi's been a very keen advocate of Pump. Did I fade Pump? Absolutely. I was not one to really understand. I get they generate a lot of fees, but to understand, necessarily the Pump thesis to come back into play, but it is what's probably going to run alongside that is Bonk. Bonk Fund is a derivative, essentially a Pump Fund. It's Pump being alpha, Bonk being the beta. You talk about getting exposure to the broader SOL ecosystem. This chart looks really good off the lows, like you said. I think it makes sense, especially if you're looking for kind of a catch-up trade, right? I would not be hesitant here to rule out that Bonk, breaks its highs from back in July, and it probably does it in a, pretty meaningful way, right? This pattern looks really good. This is the pattern you're just seeing across the board on all these alts. Like it's the same thing with Doge. Look at the 2 drives. The same thing with not that ticker. The same thing with like what Chainlink did. Like look at the 2 drives. You come back down in liquidity, sweep the lows. What happens next? The list goes on and on and on and on. I mean, it's printing across the board, and I'm like, Bonk makes sense to me here. It just makes sense if you want SOL exposure. And we talk about like that fundamental narrative, the RWA thesis. Well, Bonk Fund generates fees, right? And what is a benefactor of that? Bonk ticker itself, So I think Bonk looks really, really good here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always, my only hang up with Bonk, and you might agree with this, I hate when meme coins try to give themselves utility. It's like You can't make the market try to value you through fundamental metrics. You have to have the market try to value you because of the meme, because they can't. The market cannot do that. The market can value you off of fundamental utility, though.
Yeah, well, let me kind of shift the perspective a little bit, right? Most meme coins thus far that we've seen throughout the history of crypto that have tried to integrate utility have done it in a very lackluster, unmeaningful way, where you can value this as a fundamental play because it generates real money, right? And not in like in a significant fashion. Like it's not like they're generating like, you know, $1,000 a week, you know. No, I mean they're generating real money, real revenue. It is utility. And I think that handshake in a way is actually really good for the market, right? You're talking about integrating culture with like a fundamental narrative and thesis to where it makes sense, right? That's really bullish. You know, that's something we haven't seen thus far that much, if at all, where you get a meme and you get utility behind that. That's, I feel like, the holy trinity, you know, where you get culture involved in it, a side of CT that's very much focused on, you know, bidding culture. It's very culty. We all understand how they can prop up price, and it can get pretty nutty. But at the same time, the people in the minds that have a hard time understanding the meme can view the utilization of that fee and revenue generation as a utility. You know, it's like that's an awesome crossover.
Do you remember Shibarium? I mean, I feel like there's probably two arguments to this, right? Like the first one in favor of, which I already seen Tate Williams in the comments point out, like Doge has utility as a payment system, legitimately. And I think you could argue in some ways is maybe the most effective fundamental crypto for that purpose among all of them, probably alongside something like Ethereum. And then I think the other side of that is Shibarium, right? Which is SHIB tried to give itself its own L1. You could shitcoin there. It was supposed to be a casino, and it has never garnered as much volume ever again. I mean, part of that was, I think, I don't want to be totally unfair to Shibarium, but, you know, it had just obviously run up in 2021 super, super hard. In 2022, when Shibarium launched, much more difficult conditions for that to succeed. But I don't know. I'm interested to see kind of how these launchpad wars continue on Sol. I definitely am.
Yeah, I think I do like the fact that we had like I'll call it like the cleansing of the Solana ecosystem. It makes me trust this pump a lot more, right? It makes me trust this pump a lot more. I had a really tough time being bullish on Solana due to the nature and the behaviors that were occurring. But, you know, the quote unquote cleansing post Trump Melania shenanigans in a way was actually very healthy for the market. Was it extremely extractive? Absolutely. But in a way it was healing. And I mentioned this a lot, but this market is one of the purest forms of capitalism there is, right? There is minimal regulation, and it is completely driven by supply and demand. And when you get to one extreme, typically what occurs is some form of like self-healing, self-fulfilling prophecy, just like what Trump and Melania was, where it essentially inherently implodes on itself on both sides when it gets too bearish, and you get really, really nice asymmetric opportunities on either side of the trade.
Man, Aerodrome.
Yeah, I think Aerodrome looks fantastic here.
What's the market cap of this?
I think it's like a bill. Yeah, 1.12.
I love when the market cap can be deduced from the price, man. Those are the best coins. I don't have to look it up myself.
Yeah. There's this slider bar on TradingView. I just slide up here on the right.
Oh, wow. I didn't even do that.
Yep.
I usually go to CoinGecko.
Yeah, nice and easy. One spot, stop shop. I think airdrop looks fantastic.
I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to do well, especially if Base continues to gain market share as, the top L2 on ETH. Arrow being the top DEX, doing the most volume, probably also going to continue to do well.
Provides a majority of the liquidity for the Base ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
Right. And them being integrated onto the Base app. I mean, into the Coinbase and everything. Like airdrop, in my opinion, is probably one of the most fundamentally undervalued coins in the space.
We saw what Uniswap did last cycle. What did it get to? Like 30 billion?
Yeah, 30, 40.
Actually, it's so crazy looking back at some of these valuations from 2021. It really is just like insane how high some of those assets went, and how most alts haven't been able to really sniff a lot of those highs again. I think that's like the best argument. What was that?
I think it's coming.
I think it'll come in enough time. I don't know if I think it'll come within like a few weeks, but
no. Like that's like months down the road. But I think it's coming. That's another thing. It's like a lot of people have the argument, if this token goes to X price, that means that the market cap is going to be at this crazy valuation. And I would say, go look back at 2021, right? And what people also don't realize is, these market caps, if you get into like a euphoria altcoin type mania environment, these market caps aren't going to be very sustainable, right? So what people underestimate is how high these market caps can reach, because it doesn't make sense to them, right? It's not logical, right? Which I get. But these valuations, they're not there very long, right? So they reach these crazy high market cap valuations, and then they kind of go through another bear cycle or a consolidation or pullback of some sort. But people really do underestimate how high these market cap valuations can get in a crazy frothy environment in crypto. And I think we're going to see that again over the next couple months.
Speaking of something, I know, Tommy, you wanted to touch on in high valuations.
Yeah. Obviously I love Hyperliquid. I kind of expected it to, I'm kind of still expecting it to go higher from here. Just a matter of when. I did see, you guys know who Flood is, right?
No.
He's kind of like an older crypto trader, very wealthy. He's one of the people behind In Silico Terminal. So he's done very well from that. But he made a big bet on Hyperliquid, not just through spot, but also through call options. He took out like call spreads for 40 and 60 bucks back at like the lows. So he printed on that. He closed those out here, which I am taking note of. He's a good trader, generally speaking. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this chart. It's such like a weird looking structure. I am inclined to think it's going to go higher, but the whole reason I wanted to talk about it is more because of the stablecoin debate that they're going through right now. There's like 3 or 4 different solutions, and there's been this whole debate about, do you want your liquidity provider for a native stablecoin to be native to crypto or not native to crypto, right? And they all have, I think, like varying levels of reserves, cash, real world assets, whatever you want to call them. And I wanted to pose that question to you guys. If you were making a stable coin, 2 questions. Would you prefer that liquidity from the stable coin to be from TradFi or crypto? And then the second question would be, as a protocol, do you prioritize revenue generated from the stable coin or the stability of the stable coin? They're it might be kind of a difficult question to answer right on the spot. I'll admit, but I was thinking about this yesterday. I was finally like looking a lot deeper into kind of the impact that it would have on Hyperliquid. And it seems like the native liquidity stablecoin will be, it will generate more revenue for the protocol, but at the same time, you're kind of like entangling yourself within broader DeFi risk as well. Whereas the other option was Paxos, maybe a little bit more safe, less revenue for the protocol, but I would say maybe a little bit more stable.
Yeah, I'd have to lean towards stability over revenue, especially because this is a long term. This is a long road ahead as far as the stable coins and the digital, economy. I think over time you're going to reach that revenue and profitability if you build a sustainable stablecoin. So I would definitely favor stability over revenue, because in the long run you're going to reach that. It's just going to be a longer roadmap and time horizon. So I would say stability over revenue for sure.
It's a tough. I mean, it's a tough thing to theorize, right? You are trying to take into account many different dynamics that are at play. The one thing I will say that I really like about Hyperliquid, and the reason why I think it would be potentially more beneficial for them to have their own stablecoin, is because of their ability to execute, right? And their ability to manage and understand risk for the most part. There was the, quote unquote, we won't call it for what it is, but Binance coming after them. I do think that they can have the ability to do it right. It does pose potential systemic risks within their own ecosystem. Is it something I would be worried about? No, honestly. And I think if you're a Hyperliquid enjoyer and you enjoy Per and you enjoy the DEX, I think it'd be a good thing that they have their own native stablecoin.
Well, that's good, because it's like, in a way, that's, you have your own decentralized ecosystems, right? And that's kind of the purpose of crypto, is to kind of get away from one standard unit, have more decentralized ecosystems, and then ultimately, bridging in and out of those ecosystems. Yeah, there's going to be bigger, more, singularity stable coins like USDC, USDT, but all these ecosystems having their own stable coin within their own ecosystem bubbles, I think is a good thing at the same time. And it's kind of what crypto is all about, right? Decentralized economies.
No, I agree with that. We'll see. Well, I mean, we'll see how it all pans out, obviously. I think as far as like long term, I think it would be best to prioritize stability, because the protocol is already generating a lot of revenue. But yeah, I mean, we'll kind of have to see. It seems like both sides were kind of engaging in some, underhanded tactics to try and persuade others to vote alongside of them. But I feel like that's just kind of part of it. I don't know. Are there any other tickers that you guys think we should look at today, including the chat?
I know a lot of people are asking about Doge. Apparently that's having a nice move. I think Prometheus just had it up, but Doge having a nice rally, always a great sign. Love to see that.
Yeah, people are trying to front run that ETF. I mean, that's what's going on here. I do like the implications that the ETF has for the other blue chip memes, because memes have in general have just been, ugh. And the more, I always say this, the more different narratives that you have running in the market, the better, right? It opens up the floodgates for liquidity. It just seamlessly allows for, appreciation in prices across the board, right? So you want Solana to do well, you want Base to do well, you want the ETH or Doge ETF to be approved. So, I mean, that's you want that, even if you don't enjoy a chain, like you want people to prosper on and within crypto as a broader, the broader audience. So, Definitely looking at that. I touched on gold this morning on the Discord call. Gold looks insane. I think gold over this past week had one of its largest ETF inflows, weekly inflows ever, which is nuts. And I mean, like, this thing just went higher. You can't even chart it. It just like goes straight up, straight line. People are going to continue, well, nations, institutions, and people will continue to bid it as long as there's risk of inflation and there's no stopping it. And when you have one of the largest asset classes in the world appreciating at a pace at which it has, that creates a trickle down effect for the rest of markets. It does. There is cross correlation between all these assets. It's sometimes a little bit more difficult to find them and not as obvious, but gold appreciating is good for the rest of the market. It is. So looks very, very, very good.
What does gold Bitcoin look like right now, charted against each other? Man, why does that kind of look like a few meme coin charts?
Yeah.
I think the Bitcoin gold ratio is a little better to look at.
Probably.
What's the ticker?
I think you just flip the two.
Just BTC over Doge.
Oh.
I mean, over BTC over gold.
Talk about assets I've completely forgotten about.
Yeah, no, we're not looking at that.
Look at it right now. Oh my God, it's at 2 million market cap.
0. Somebody got paid a lot of money to just continually shill that. That's all I'll say.
It literally, it almost hit $1 billion.
It's crazy. Yeah, no, I look here, Bitcoin versus gold ratio. To me, interestingly, yeah, it has to. Like, not gonna lie, this looks like it's coming back down into here probably. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Gold's gonna bleed in perpetuity to Bitcoin at this point, until you see that saturation, the entire saturation of Bitcoin, through the broader financial system.
Like, this kind of looks like Sol ETH a couple months ago, and it just kept kind of bull chopping higher.
Kind of like in here almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could see it. I just have a hard time seeing gold outperform Bitcoin that much from here.
Yeah.
Unless.
Dude, I mean, you'll see gold go to 10,000 in the next few, probably like 2 decades from now, 3 decades from now. You'll see gold, 10,000 easily, but
it's crazy to think about. But I feel like I have to agree, just given how much uncertainty there seems to be around the world right now.
Yeah. Well, not only that, just the perpetual debasement,
Yeah. I mean, did you guys see what happened in Nepal earlier this week? I thought it was pretty interesting.
Burning down the parliament and stuff.
Yeah, I'm basically like these guys in a Discord group chat organized a coup, more or less.
Yeah.
Bunch of kids. So. Oh, you're from Nepal? That's sick. I hope you're okay.
Dude, Nepal's an awesome country, by the way.
I had a friend who visited there a year or two ago. They said they loved it.
Amazing, amazing people.
Explain. Well, so basically, yeah, there were these kids in a Discord group chat. I think we're beginning to organize a coup. The government caught wind of this and, from my understanding, tried to shut off access to social media as they saw they were gaining traction. And then these people ended up storming the parliament. A lot of government officials escaped. I know some people did not. But the new elected leader was done through a massive Discord vote, and the military is acknowledging legitimacy of this new election.
Crazy.
So
That's
That's
insane.
so
Yeah. insane, just insane. Crazy times, man. Absolutely crazy times.
Yeah. A lot of craziness over the last week and a half. A lot of turmoil. Yeah, pretty wild stuff occurring.
Yeah.
Does feel like we're at like a pivot point or a breaking point of some sort.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
think it also
tweeted something
on a positive.
like that
Yeah,
yesterday.
I liked your tweet. Yeah.
Something just feels off. I can't put my finger on it, but it's just like it's like a tension's building up, and I can't even.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't put my
Yes,
finger on.
feel the energy. Yeah, everybody does, man. It's like,
Everyone's feeling it.
yeah,
And I have to go deep into my astrology bag and see if I can figure out what it is. But
going from
no, I mean, do you guys have anything else that we want to look at here as we wrap up the show?
going from red to green. Love to see it.
Yeah.
A little bit of a decoupling from the Russell, which is interesting, but love to see it.
I like Zora here as a buy.
Yeah, Zora looks good. I was looking at that.
Started scooping some up yesterday. Could be a little early, but you got a 60% discount off the highs coming into pretty much your only market structure up here. I think the tech is very interesting, like monetizing like social media posts. I've been playing around a little bit on the website, just posting a couple times, getting a couple followers, like making money, right? Like nothing just crazy, but there's people that are making a lot of money. And they're obviously also backed by Coinbase, heavily backed by Coinbase. So we've seen the rally. We're seeing this correction, right? So glad, not a pump that you wanted to chase. I'm sure a lot of people did. Those people are now capitulating likely. And that's why I think we're coming into a great zone to buy. So I'm sorry.
Like,
Sui?
Oh man, I haven't looked at Sui in a minute.
looks like
Sui
circle.
always like it's one of those coins that I never pay attention to, and every time I start looking at it again, it's like low key communicating the next move in the market.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
I
it
think
looks
this
like
looks
Circle.
Sui. Yeah, it does look like Circle. I just don't think it's going to do that. I hope not. But
What, come back down in this demand region down here?
yeah, I think we can sweep that. But I'd rather, we're coming into market structure. I'm always a little earlier, right? I'd rather be a little earlier, take a little drawdown, just in case it decides to V recover and bounce hard out of nowhere. So
Yeah,
I'm starting to nibble.
yeah. I don't mind the buys here. Yeah, RSI maybe is a little bit more to give, but pretty close.
How does this compare to the DGen chart? I wonder. You might need to get the ETH chart though for it. If I had to guess. Oh man.
That's all right.
Oh man.
Which one
I
is it?
don't, to be honest. I haven't charted DGen in so long.
Two different tickers here.
I think the first chart you had was pretty good.
Holy guacamole.
Are they all comparable?
What's up?
Just because are they comparable charts? I'm just asking because they're kind of like both Insider Coinbase. I would assume they mostly bundled the supply and things like that.
I would say no, because Zora actually has a working product that they're continuing to grow and User base is growing, all that stuff. Base, I feel like just getting started. And we're also at different points in the cycle as well. So context is to where we are in the market cycle. So, I mean, anything can happen, right? We start losing that kind of market structure we pointed out to the left, right? Start losing those lows, I'll obviously get out. But
yeah, I think you come down into here.
Man, you know that I actually kind of know what the Zora chart looks like. Let me see to make sure that I'm not just talking out of my butt here.
see if you can pull
It
up.
looks like Mudang. It kind of reminds me of Mudang. The recent run up though.
Oh, this right here.
Yeah,
The CZ
I remember. I was trying to long it.
Scam.
I was trying to long it.
Yeah, CZ pumped the crap out of this token.
Is that who did it?
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Just,
I'm pretty sure he's the one who pumped Popcat so hard. He had a huge stack of that just very randomly.
God, what was the most recent ticker that just went? Oh yeah. This looks natural.
What is that?
Aura.
Oh, Aura. I forgot about that.
You know what's funny about
My
that? I was
God.
hanging out with my younger cousin. He's like 9-10 years old, so he's into all the new terminology and phrases. And the amount of times he said the word aura when we were hanging out, and it was literally at the lows. It was about like a day or two before this pump, and he kept saying aura. And I mean, I've heard of aura. Like I get what it means and stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, we've been seeing a lot of these like popular phrases like pop off. I was like, I wonder if like there's an aura token. Never ended up looking into it, and literally 2 or 3 days later, I saw the aura ticker. Absolutely meat sticking. I was like, oh man, like that could have been, that was the universe telling me, and I just I didn't take action. Yeah, that was a crazy pump.
The dead meme coin charts that I buy go straight to zero.
Yeah. If you bought this, it was going to zero. So
That's just crazy, man.
What even?
200x off the lows, just ridiculous. It's also a good reminder: any day in trading can be your best day. I always tell that to people who are down on their luck.
It's got to show up. It's got to show up.
It can't be your best day if you don't show up. You're absolutely right.
28,000%. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. All right. Absolutely. I think that's good. I think we've done enough. Leave it on that.
Yeah, we're talking about Aura coin and oh man. Hopefully you guys have had a great week. You're staying safe. Obviously a lot of craziness has kind of happened over the last few days. So take some time off this weekend, get away from the charts, maybe spend some time outside in the sun if you are able. But if you enjoyed Market Check today, we'll be back for another episode on Monday. And a reminder that we are live Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Big week next week. So definitely make sure to tune in. We'll be talking about how Powell fits into the equation, FOMC, and we'll be seeing where, we're kind of trading into that. But we go live with a typical start time around 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So catch us on YouTube if you enjoyed the stream. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. But also make sure to check out Market Talk, hosted by the legendary King Wabi. That is an X Spaces hosted through the Because Bitcoin account. So make sure to stay following and subscribe to both Wabi and Because Bitcoin so you could be notified not just when we schedule those spaces, but also when we go live. Lastly, if you are looking for some things that are going to be able to help you conquer the current market regime, which has been frustrating throughout the summer, I won't lie, right? It's been choppy. ETH ran, but maybe you're looking for a little bit of signal. We do have We do have some killer new products that we just launched that will help you be able to do that, starting with the Volume Fusion Pro Discord. If you want access to some of the indicators Max has been working tirelessly on and that are actively kicking the market's ass. I mean, we're not just saying that. You can see the back-tested results if you join the Discord. All you have to do is sign up for our Blowfin or through our Blowfin referral link, do some trading. You'll be given access to these indicators on things like Pepe, or indicators, I mean signals on things like Pepe, Doge, and Solana. Again, these things are beating the market on assets that are actively trending pretty aggressively right now. So if you were in the Discord a few weeks ago, you're probably having a pretty good time this week. I would say that. But lastly, also make sure to check out the BB Degen, or the Degen page as a part of the BB terminal. It's something that our dev Ed has been working incredibly hard on. And it's objectively a much better product than Dextrainer. If you're looking for something that can give you an edge to trade on-chain markets, on Solana, on ETH, and as I've been jokingly saying, even things like SUI NFTs, check out the BB Degen page. I promise you won't be disappointed. But that's it from us. We hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. And of course, stay safe this weekend. Bye, guys.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal,